Residents still in shock after suicide blasts. That and more stories in our bulletin today. Thank you so much for joining us. My name is Nahabe Kujura, but first are the headlines. The Parliament of Uganda resumes business today. Blinken on COVID-19 renewable energy and security in Africa. In our sports today, Kataka keen for opening victory against Nyamituo Wora. Once again, thank you so much for joining us. We start with one of our top stories. Now, Ugandans are yet to recover from the shock of last Tuesday's double explosions, which rocked the country's capital, Kampala, claiming 6 lives. Police described as a coordinated attack by extremists opposed to the government. We have more on this report.
According to Mike Watmore, a businessman in Kampala, Tuesday's events were very shocking and totally uncalled for, adding that Ugandans are normally peace-loving people and that government had achieved in guaranteeing people to sleep. He added that when terrorists interrupt their activities, it causes a lot of psychological shock and economic disruption because they cannot do their economic activities when they are living under threat of terrorism and unsure of their next security. A banker, Fred Kanamwangi, also said that it is terrible, especially when it starts happening in areas where the concentration of people is, urging the government to do a lot to ensure that people are protected. Security analyst Grace Masiko believes the country could be headed for tougher times as the terrorists are changing faces and tactics. The explosions caused chaos in Kampala as terrified residents fled the city's center. 24 hours after the incident, economic activities were returning to normal, but areas close to the Parliament House remained under strict security, and forensics experts combed for clues and evidence. The Islamic State group claimed the responsibility for the blasts, according to SITE, which tracks the online activities of extremist organizations.
Moving on in our top stories, Parliament resumed its business today, 2 days after it was suspended following the train bombings that rocked the city on Tuesday, leaving 7 people dead and over 30 people injured. One explosion happened along Parliament Avenue, not very far from the main entrance of Parliament, while the other went outside the Central Police Station in Kampala near the Constitutional Square. Our reporter has more.
According to a statement released by the Clerk to Parliament, Adolf Mwesige, Parliament of Uganda was to resume plenary sitting with effect from today, Thursday, 18th November 2021, commencing at 2 p.m. The statement added that the order paper for the sitting will be uploaded on the members of Parliament iPads by close of business today to enable them make appropriate preparations for the sitting. The House's plenary sittings, usually held during the afternoon hours, is where members of Parliament are invited to attend to debate and discuss a number of issues, including those of national importance. Following the attacks, the legislators were urged not to proceed to the precincts of Parliament as security forces worked around the clock to restore order in the city centre.
Moving on, the death toll from the Tuesday morning Kampala twin blasts has reached 7 after a police officer succumbed to injuries at Mulago Hospital. Now, George Katana, a businessman, was the 7th person to succumb to wounds from the blast that hit his workplace. Our reporter has more.
The man who operated a printing business along Parliamentary Avenue was among those affected by the blast as 2 suicide bombers detonated bombs they were carrying on motorcycles. On Wednesday afternoon, police released the identities of the people who died in the twin blasts that rocked Kampala on Tuesday morning. According to police, Police Constable Amos Kungu died instantly in the explosion that targeted the Central Police Station checkpoint where he had been deployed. The bone of Molu village in Budaka district was buried at his ancestral grounds today. Others who died in the blasts are Ismail Basibe and Christophe Sande. Following the blasts that hit Kampala on Tuesday morning, at least 35 people were admitted to hospital and 5 of these were in critical conditions. President Museveni assured the public that terrorists whom he described as pigs will face the wrath of the law after inviting government to go after them. The incidents came barely a month after two separate explosions rocked a pork-eating joint in Komamboga, a Kampala suburb, and a Swift Safari bus along Kampala-Masaka Highway.
May his soul rest in eternal peace, and we urge you to take cautious. We take a quick break, shall come back with the international news. Welcome back from the break. You're still watching TV Africa, the right to know. In our international news today, 10 people have been shot dead and many wounded as thousands of Sudanese protested against last month's coup in Khartoum and other cities on Wednesday. We have more on this report.
According to a pro-democracy doctors union, in the northern suburbs of the capital alone, 7 people were shot dead by the security forces, which aimed at the head, the neck, or the torso. Since the military takeover on October 25th, more than 34 people, including 3 teenagers, have been killed and hundreds injured. By midday on Wednesday, the new military government cut off all telephone communications, while the internet has been inaccessible in the country since the start of the coup. This affected mobilization, which eventually affected the turnout for the protest. On October 25th, General Abdel Fattah al-Burhan reshuffled the deck in a transition that had been shaky for months. He removed almost all civilians from power and put an end to the Sacred Union formed in 2019 by civilians and the military. In this country, where more than 250 demonstrators had died during the revolution that overthrew the dictator Omar al-Bashir in 2019, one of its spearheads, the Association of Sudanese Professionals, denounced on Wednesday 4 crimes against humanity, accusing the security forces of premeditated murders.
Moving on, the U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken on Wednesday urged Africans to watch out for rising threats to democracy as he began a 3-nation tour of the continent, where he is also seeking momentum to end Ethiopia's year-long war. Our reporter has more.
Blinken, who will also visit Nigeria and Senegal, wants to demonstrate a new U.S. commitment to Africa with the focus on democracy, climate change, and COVID-19 at a time when China is making steady inroads into the continent. The top U.S. diplomat spoke for an hour and a half with Kenyan President Uhuru Kenyatta at a meeting that was originally scheduled for 10 minutes. Kenyatta paid a surprise trip to Addis Ababa on Sunday in the hope of pushing peace efforts, adding to a flurry of international diplomatic activity over the conflict. Blinken also held talks with civil society leaders and asked for ideas on how to stop the bad actors who test democratic institutions and threaten free media. President Joe Biden has vowed to pay attention to Africa and draw a distinction with his predecessor, Donald Trump, who made no secret of his lack of interest in the continent. Kenya's Foreign Minister Rachel Omamo called on Blinken to see concrete progress, especially on security concerns. In his remarks to civil society, Blinken acknowledged that threats to democracy also existed in the United States, where a mob loyal to Trump attacked the U.S. Capitol on January 6th in a bid to overturn the election result.
Away from that, the French troops on Wednesday officially handed over the farthest northern post in Tessalit to the Malian forces. Now, Paris troops have been occupying the post for the past 8 years as they fight for insurgency from the northern jihadists in the region. Take a look at the story.
The French army has also indicated that it will surrender its Timbuktu post to concentrate further in Gao, Menaka, and Gossi. This is the second base the French troops have handed over after it first did the same with the Kidal base in mid-October. In June, Paris began recognizing its military presence in the fight against jihadists in the Sahel, notably by leaving its northernmost bases of Kidal, Timbuktu, and Tessalit in Mali, and planning to reduce its troops in the region by 2023 to 2,500 to 3,000 men, compared with more than 5,000 today. Relations between Paris and Bamako soared on September 25th when Mali's transitional Prime Minister Choguel Kokala Maiga accused France, which has been militarily engaged in Mali since 2013, of abandoning it as insurgency persisted. The relations further went south when the Malian government made some deals with Russian mercenaries to help boost its security.
Moving on, for many Somalis, the camel is a gift from the gods, a source of milk and meat, a beast of burden in the desert, and as climate change spurs extreme weather in the Horn of Africa, insurance in times of crisis. Our reporter looked at the tales of the camel in Somalia.
An animal of haughty and cantankerous repute in Somalia, the camel is celebrated in songs and folklore, a symbol of status and prosperity, and exchanged in marriages or to settle feuds. In his overwhelmingly rural society of 15 million, the rearing of camels and other livestock underpins an economy devastated by war and natural disaster that ranks among the world's very poorest. The livestock industry is the main contributor to economic growth in Somalia and in normal years accounts for 80% of exports, according to the Food and Agriculture Organization. Camels are far outnumbered by sheep and goats, which wander Hargeisa in northern Somalia with their owners' phone numbers scrolled on their sides should they get lost and need returning. But at 7 million beasts, there are more camels in Somalia than almost anywhere else, and they don't just confer respect on their owners, they fetch more high prices. According to Kosa Abid Hussein, who oversees the market where camel milk is sold fresh, and even camel urine is believed to have health benefits after being bottled, said that an impressive specimen carry a $1,000 price tag. Camels still produce milk during drought, citing nomads who can go a month in the dry lands consuming nothing else. Hussein added that camels are important to Somali culture because one is always considered wealthy or can rise in social status by the number of camels they have.
Well, thank you so much, our reporter. We take a quick break. We shall come back with the business news. Welcome back from the break. You're still watching TV Africa the Right Now. In a business news today, the importance of digital transformation in the creating quality jobs and the economic recovery of post-pandemic African countries. This is the main focus of the report, Development Dynamics in Africa 2021, the result of a partnership between the African Union and the OECD Development Center, whose Portuguese edition, funded the Camus Institute, was presented this Wednesday in Lisbon.
According to Armindo de Brito Fernandes, Director General of the Community of Portuguese-speaking countries, the report that was launched yesterday in its Portuguese version tells the people that the digital sector is booming in Africa and that dynamic means an opportunity for governments to help start a new growth cycle after the COVID-19 crisis. Anna Dotil, Director of the Development Center of the OECD, stated that COVID-19 is boosting the digital transformation of Africa by making people look for more remote solutions in times of lockdown. He said that the unfortunate part is the way it deepened inequalities within African societies and prevented equal sharing of the benefits of this revolution. In addition to taking stock of the impact of the crisis on the African continent, the report offers recommendations to African governments and companies on public policies and the sharing of best practices to boost recovery and job creation.
In Africa Today, health, inappropriate use of antimicrobials in the animals in growing global concern and a very big risk to animal health, according to a report released by World Animal Protection ahead of the World Antimicrobial Awareness Week. We have more on this report.
The study done in November and December 2020 consisted of a cross-sectional survey targeting veterinary drugstores, pharmacies, farmers and the public across 19 counties in Kenya to determine the knowledge and practices of antimicrobial resistance. It attracted a total of 1,142 participants across 19 counties in Kenya, and the study showed that antibiotics were the most sold product in 58% of aggravates and 43% of pharmacies interviewed. Antibiotic sales contributed significantly to total revenue in both stores, 38.8% in pharmacies and 30% in aggravates. Dairy with 49.6% and poultry with 38.9%. Farmers were reported as the most frequent consumers of antibiotics. These two animal species are associated with intensive farming systems that are associated with overuse and misuse of antibiotics to mask poor welfare practices. Every time an antibiotic is given to an animal or consumed by a human, it is an opportunity for that bacteria present to get used to that antibiotic and possibly mutate to be resistant. Dr. Victor Yamo, Farming Campaigns Manager, World Animal Protection, said that the main objective of this study was to explore the levels of antimicrobial resistance and knowledge and prescribing practices among veterinary and human drug vendors, farmers, and the public. He explained that knowledge and practices related to antibiotics among respondents showed significant gaps and needed an urgent effort to mitigate such practices. According to the experts, antibiotics were the commonly sold product in human and veterinary stores, and this contrasts with the low sales of vaccines and other biosecurity measures.
In our sports news today, the 2021-2022 Star Times Football Big League returns with 4 games on Thursday, November 18th, 2021 during Match Day 2 at different venues. Now, Mbale-based Kataka kick off the campaign with their first game of the season at home against visiting Nyamitiobora at the Mbale Municipal Stadium. We have more on this report.
Under head coach Godfrey Taludo Awachango, Kataka has been a consistent side in the second division league and played the 2019-2020 playoffs, losing to Kitara in post-match penalties, where Kitara eventually made the grade to the Uganda Premier League. Players as skipper Peter Lusimbula, Nandala Nasur, Tifka Kande, the towering Francis Odong remain key for Team Kataka in this affair that they need maximum points. Nyamitiobora, a former top-tier side, played a goalless draw with Proline on match day 1 at the Kacheka Stadium in Mbarara City. The Banyakari are still stabilizing in the administrative docket after the untimely resignation of their former president Ben Emmanuel Misaga. In fact, by the time they faced Proline, Nyamitiobora had limited training session under Ibrahim Kiria, who eventually failed to agree terms with the management. Team skipper Clinton Komgisha will lead the rest of his charges in the tricky away contest. Other matches on Thursday, 18th November 2021 will witness Proline and Maroons lock horns in the 2 Kampala City clubs at the MTN Omondi Stadium, Lugogo. Blacks Power will face Maida in Lira at the Akibua Memorial Stadium. At the Nyakisunga Saza Playground, hosts Ketume shall entertain Kitara. The Federation for Uganda Football Association Big League is the country's second tier league with the 3 clubs promoted to the top flight division.
Well, thank you so much for being a low audience from where we started from. Don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel. We shall keep updating you. It is TV Africa, the right to know.